It was a dark and chilly evening on November 24th, 1971. The streets were quiet, with only the occasional car passing by, its headlights cutting through the misty air. The city was wrapped in a blanket of anticipation, as families prepared for the Thanksgiving holiday. Thanksgiving was just around the corner and people were eager to get home. The airport buzzed with activity as travelers hurried to catch their flights, their minds filled with thoughts of turkey dinners and family gatherings. The festive decorations added a touch of warmth to the otherwise cold and bustling environment. At Portland International Airport, a man using the name Dan Cooper approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He was unassuming, blending in with the crowd of holiday travelers. No one paid him much attention as he made his way through the terminal. He paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle on Flight 305. The transaction was quick and uneventful, just another routine purchase on a busy travel day. Cooper, described as a man in his 40s, was dressed in a business suit and tie. His attire was typical for the era, giving him the appearance of a respectable businessman. He carried a black briefcase, which he kept close at all times. He looked like any other businessman. His demeanor was calm and collected, and he moved with a sense of purpose. To the casual observer, he was just another traveler on his way to an important meeting. He boarded the Boeing 727, chose a seat in the back, and ordered a bourbon and soda. The flight attendants noted his polite manners and thought nothing of his request. He seemed to be settling in for a routine flight. Little did anyone know this ordinary-looking man was about to commit a crime that would baffle the world for decades to come. His calm exterior hid a meticulously planned operation that would soon unfold. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper passed a note to a flight attendant. At first, she thought it was just another passenger complaint or a flirtatious message. But when she read the note, her heart raced. It claimed he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes. The note was clear and concise, leaving no room for doubt about the seriousness of the situation. The flight attendant, terrified, discreetly informed the pilot. Her hands trembled as she relayed the message, knowing that the lives of everyone on board were now in jeopardy. The pilot, Captain William Scott, immediately contacted air traffic control. His voice was steady, but the gravity of the situation was clear. He knew they had to follow Cooper's demands to ensure the safety of the passengers and crew. The FBI was alerted, and a plan was put into motion. Agents scrambled to gather the ransom money and parachutes, coordinating with local law enforcement and airport officials. The plane circled over Seattle as authorities gathered the ransom money and parachutes. The passengers remained unaware of the drama unfolding above them, their conversations and activities continuing as normal. Passengers were unaware of the drama unfolding. They chatted, read books, and napped, oblivious to the fact that their flight had become the center of a high-stakes negotiation. Cooper remained calm and collected, even lighting a cigarette. His demeanor was almost unnervingly relaxed, as if he had done this 100 times before. He seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. He exuded a quiet confidence that left no doubt he was in control. After a tense 2 hours, the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The runway was lined with emergency vehicles, their lights flashing in the darkness. The atmosphere was thick with tension, as everyone awaited the next move. The ransom and parachutes were delivered, and Cooper released the 36 passengers. They disembarked quickly, their faces a mix of relief and confusion, still unaware of the full extent of the danger they had been in. With the ransom money and a few crew members still on board, Cooper instructed the pilots to fly towards Mexico City. The plane took off into the night, leaving behind a trail of questions and a mystery that would captivate the world for years to come. As the plane soared through the night sky, Cooper's plan continued to unfold. He directed the pilots to fly at a low altitude and slow speed, conditions that would later be understood as crucial to his escape strategy. The pilots, under Cooper's watchful eye, adjusted the controls accordingly. They communicated with air traffic control, maintaining the facade of a routine flight while internally grappling with the extraordinary circumstances. Inside the cabin, the remaining crew members tried to stay calm. They followed Cooper's instructions meticulously, aware that any misstep could have dire consequences. The dim cabin lights added to the surreal and tense atmosphere. Cooper began preparing the parachutes, his actions methodical and precise. He seemed to have thought of every detail, leaving nothing to chance. His face remained impassive, betraying no hint of fear or hesitation. As the plane flew over a remote area, Cooper opened the rear door. The roar of the wind filled the cabin, and the night sky stretched out before him. Without a word, he jumped, disappearing into the darkness below. The search for Cooper began immediately, but he seemed to have vanished without a trace. Search teams scoured the area, but the dense forest and rugged terrain made the task nearly impossible. The mystery of Dan Cooper, or D.B. Cooper as he would come to be known, had just begun. The story dominated headlines, and the FBI launched one of the most extensive manhunts in history. Sketches of Cooper were circulated, and countless leads were followed, but the elusive hijacker remained at large. Over the years, the legend of D.B. Cooper grew. Theories and speculations abounded, with some believing he had perished in the jump, while others were convinced he had successfully escaped and was living a new life under a different identity. To this day, the case remains unsolved, a tantalizing mystery that continues to captivate the public's imagination. Modern-day investigators still pore over the evidence, hoping to uncover the truth behind one of the most daring and enigmatic crimes in aviation history. D.B. Cooper's demands were specific and meticulously planned. He wanted $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills. This was a significant amount of money at the time, equivalent to over $1 million today. This amounted to a suitcase full of cash, a visual that has become iconic in the annals of crime history. He also insisted on 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve. This unusual request puzzled the authorities. The FBI scrambled to meet his demands, working against the clock to ensure everything was in place. They wanted to ensure the passengers' safety, a top priority amidst the chaos. They carefully gathered the money and parachutes, hoping to apprehend Cooper when he least expected it. The agents meticulously counted the bills and inspected the parachutes, ensuring there were no hidden tricks. Cooper's request for 4 parachutes was particularly perplexing. It led to numerous speculations and theories. Did he plan to take hostages with him? The thought sent chills down the spines of everyone involved. Was he creating a diversion to make his escape? The FBI had to consider every possibility. The parachutes became a key element in the mystery. They were not just tools for escape, but symbols of Cooper's audacity and cunning. They hinted at Cooper's daring plan to jump from the plane mid-flight. This was a move that required not just courage, but also precise planning and knowledge of skydiving. As the plane took off again, this time with only Cooper and the crew, the FBI had no idea what would happen next. The tension was palpable, and the stakes were incredibly high. The nation held its breath, captivated by the unfolding drama. News reporters scrambled to cover every detail, and the public was glued to their television sets, eager for updates on this unprecedented hijacking. The story of D.B. Cooper became a media sensation, with every new development making headlines. People speculated about his identity, his motives, and his ultimate fate. The FBI's investigation was intense and exhaustive. They analyzed every clue, interviewed witnesses, and even recreated the flight path to understand Cooper's possible escape routes. Search teams combed through dense forests and rugged terrain, looking for any sign of Cooper or the money. Despite their efforts, he seemed to have vanished without a trace. The legend of D.B. Cooper grew with each passing year. He became a folk hero to some, a symbol of rebellion and mystery. His sketch, based on eyewitness accounts, became one of the most famous images in criminal history. Even today, modern-day investigators and amateur sleuths continue to be fascinated by the case. They pore over files and documents, hoping to uncover new evidence that might finally solve the mystery. The story of D.B. Cooper remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time. It is a tale of daring, intrigue, and the enduring human fascination with the unknown. With the ransom secured and the plane back in the air, the tension inside the aircraft was palpable. The crew, though trained for emergencies, had never faced a situation quite like this. The weight of the money bag seemed to symbolize the gravity of the moment. D.B. Cooper, a man whose true identity remains a mystery to this day, instructed the crew to set course southeast towards Mexico. His voice was calm yet authoritative, leaving no room for negotiation or hesitation. He ordered them to fly at a low altitude and maintain a slow speed. This was not a random demand, it was a calculated move. Flying low would help him avoid radar detection, and the slow speed would make his daring escape more feasible. This was crucial for his planned escape. Every detail had been meticulously thought out. Cooper's demeanor was that of a man who had rehearsed this scenario countless times in his mind. As the plane flew over the Pacific Northwest, a dark and stormy region, the weather seemed to mirror the tension inside the aircraft. The storm clouds gathered ominously, adding an extra layer of complexity to Cooper's already audacious plan. Cooper remained calm and in control. His composure was almost eerie, as if he thrived in the chaos he had created. The crew, though anxious, couldn't help but be somewhat reassured by his steady demeanor. He gave specific instructions to the pilots, ensuring they followed his every command. Each directive was clear and precise, leaving no room for error. The pilots, though experienced, found themselves in uncharted territory, relying on Cooper's instructions to navigate this unprecedented situation. Around 8 p.m., somewhere over the dense forests of Washington state, the moment of truth arrived. The vast, dark expanse below seemed both a refuge and a perilous unknown. D.B. Cooper made his move. With a sense of purpose, he prepared for the jump. The crew, now isolated in the cockpit, could only imagine what was happening behind them. He lowered the rear stairs of the Boeing 727 and jumped into the night sky. The storm raged around him, but Cooper seemed undeterred. His leap into the unknown was the culmination of his meticulously planned heist. The crew, strapped into their seats in the cockpit, felt a jolt as Cooper and the ransom money vanished into the darkness. The sudden shift in weight and the rush of cold air were the only signs that the hijacker had made his escape. The pilots, shaken but unharmed, managed to land the plane safely in Reno, Nevada. The relief of touching down was tempered by the realization that their ordeal was far from over. The authorities immediately launched a massive manhunt for Cooper. Law enforcement agencies from across the region mobilized, determined to capture the man who had pulled off one of the most audacious crimes in aviation history. The FBI questioned the crew and searched the plane meticulously, hoping to find clues. Every inch of the aircraft was examined, but Cooper had left no trace. His escape was as clean as it was daring, but D.B. Cooper had vanished, leaving behind more questions than answers. The empty plane with its open door stood as a silent testament to his audacity and mankind. His daring escape had just begun. The dense forests and stormy night provided the perfect cover for his enemy. The world would soon be captivated